our candlesticks. Talk to us about the NASDAQ technicals and where we stand right now.
Looking good. We're trending above the 21-day, the 50-day. We had a little pullback on Friday, which was fine. We don't want the market to get too overheated. The most extended index is still the Qs, and that is, as of Friday, was only 4.3% above the 50 days. So that's good to see. The one area that is still concerning is small caps. IWM got resistance at the 50-day again, and just cannot get past there. And even with a lot of financials moving the other day, that was kind of surprising. And so, generally when the small caps aren't really rocking, it's kind of a risk off trade sometimes. So it makes it tougher on growth in general.
Something to be aware of for sure. Scott, give us your take. Maybe not so much of the major indexes, because we know you prefer to look at the temperature of the market, so to speak, through the stocks that you own and the stocks that you wish you owned. So give us an update on that front.
Yeah, I think the indexes are just fine. They're not going anywhere. The NASDAQ, it's just kind of quiet, surprisingly. I'm neutral on the market. I'm not making a whole lot of progress. So I have to put a little weight on that, but my eyes tell me that the market's fine. Stocks are going up. But sometimes it's like, well, they're going up, but I don't feel like I'm participating as much as I, quote unquote, should. So I'm invested, but I don't know, maybe 70%, 60%, something like that.
And this week, would you be looking to add exposure, reduce exposure? Does it just depend on what happens as the week progresses?
Yeah, I always like to add if I'm making progress. So that's the first thing I need to see, if I'm making progress, or maybe I'm just in the wrong stocks. That could be possible too. I had a few names that looked good. They're setting up. They're more industrial, like shipping and Atcor and things like that. It's areas that I normally wouldn't be in, but I'm open to being in any groups, because anything can happen in any of these groups. So I liked Atcor. I might buy that today if I see a spot, if it pulls back just a little bit. So I'm in buy mode, but I'm not pedal to the metal mode at this moment.
All right, thank you. And Ed, give us your perspective on, earnings season, the groups that have been looking good, and other factors that you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. We got through earnings season pretty well. It helped that maybe some of those big techs didn't go too hot. So that's one reason why the NASDAQ 100 isn't extended. Home builders have sort of joined the leadership a little bit, but it's not like they're pouring it on. And the same thing with steel makers. It's like they're sort of teasing. They're sort of like, we're ready to go, but I'm not sure if we're going yet, kind of situation. Like it's not surprising they're coming down. There's concerns about global growth. The miners are down, oil is down, copper is down. I mean, that doesn't mean that steel has to come down, but it's not a great sign. And yeah, so it's still a narrow breadth. I mean, as Chris was talking about, the Russell is still sort of stuck down there. So yeah, I'm just going to sort of watch this week, I think, to see how things are. Because it just seems like it's just tricky to buy at. It's like anytime you buy stuff, it's with the market being choppy and going sideways. If you look at sort of the market overall the last 2 or 3 weeks, yeah, we're sideways. So if you're buying on strength, you're probably buying near the highs, and then you're probably going through a period where stock is going down for a little bit. And so it's almost like you got to hold your breath and just, can you hold on for a while and then wait until it moves higher? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Okay, well, one stock that has really been moving higher and higher and higher is BNTX, up 8%. Chris, give us your take on the action that we're seeing for BNTX on the heels of its earnings report with strong numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it still has that climactic look, which makes us a little nervous. We took it off on Swing Trader last, I guess, earlier in the week, or maybe even late in the prior week, when it, gapped up in the morning and then started fading. So that was the red day just above 300, and it's gone up a whole lot more since then. Into the strength, the other day we took off a quarter on leaderboard, just because that was such a big move. The biggest, I think, point move of the whole run, which is another element of a climax run, but this thing just does not want to roll over. So, and the question is, it definitely has been running long enough to be a climax run. I mean, let's go to the monthly for a second, just so.
Sure.
Yeah, so started trading around 14, and now it's at 400. So
Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck.
So you agree with me, Scott?
Absolutely. I mean, if that's not a climax run, then maybe I just don't know what a climax run is. Now, the problem is it could be 480, it could be 520. But
Yeah.
I look at like Futu and some of those others that climax run, and every time you sell it, it's like it's higher. Like I would have thought Futu was a climax run at that first spike above 100. Yeah, I would have thought the same thing there, and it was wrong for 100% move. But if you sold it there, it's so disheartening to watch it keep going. That's why maybe you sell in increments. I have a friend that in the 90s, he would sell all his climax tops in 20% increments. So every day you'd sell 20%, 20%, 20%, because you're never going to get the top. But even any of those sells in that area are great sells now. You avoided all that chop and the stock's lower. And that's the same thing I think about BNTX. If you sell it here, it could be 470 tomorrow. It could be 500. But as sure as I'm sitting in here, I'm pretty certain in 6 months, that will be a really good price that you get. I could be wrong, but that's would be my take.
Would you leave a little tiny bit and wait for it to break the 10-day, or even just undercutting some of the recent lows?
I wouldn't. If I was in this, I would have been out at 6:30 in 2 seconds, but I'm not in it. So that's the problem. Is sometimes I think I notice these things too soon, and it's like I'm like, how come nobody else sees this climax run? I'm looking around for everybody to sell, and so I'm always early in these situations. But yeah, that's fine if because it's hard to sell them for most people. They just don't want to let it go because it tends to go higher. They don't, just because I'm selling doesn't mean the stock has to stop going up. So maybe you try that. So if you have 1,000 shares, sell 200 today, sell 200 tomorrow, 200 the next day, or whatever. And then, you'll get some type of average price, and you hope you're wrong. If you sell 200 today, you just hope that that's a terrible sell, because you might get 450 tomorrow.
Yeah, well, some great strategies there for how to handle a stock like this. Great job to both the swing trader and leaderboard teams for catching this one. It's interesting, but for those of you who are needless to say, when we're talking about a climax top, you don't want to jump on this train right here. This is
Right.
that could be very dangerous. But let's check out SWAB, Ed. What do you think about this stock retaking its 50-day line on earnings?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great to see it already backing off, but that's, fine. It wouldn't be the worst thing if 200 became sort of the start of a handle too. I mean, so you have a nice action, just down a penny. It's getting close to profitable, and that can often be really interesting. You see that the estimates are for it to be profitable in 2022. So maybe later this year they were expecting to be profitable. Huge revenue growth. Obviously still the numbers are still a little low, but that's so that's the only thing there, but really interesting in that regard. I'm definitely going to pay attention to it. I think I would love to see if it could form a handle right here. Yeah, you definitely could. You could definitely buy it here, but I don't like the action coming back down now off the high. Like if it had rallied to this point, that would look like an early entry to me. I mean, you certainly could do it. I mean,
we're 10 minutes in to the
we're 10
day.
minutes in, but I feel like that coming off the highs like that, I'd like to see a little bit of strength or some kind of issue. I'm not great on gap ups, and so that's that decision. I would love to see a handle right here. Maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't.
Okay. And, we've been talking a lot about medical sector exposure, and this group is now 9 out of 197. So that's something else to keep in mind, but we'll have to see where this one trades